Welcome to my tier list ranking video for 2024 movies that I have watched this year. I have watched lots of different movies, including blockbusters and classic films, even some classic classics from the 1920s and 1930s, but also some newer films that I saw in the movie theater. This is the first tier ranking video I've ever done, so bear with me if this is not the greatest quality, but I have all 74 movies I watched this year laid out there for you, and I have them going to be ranked from F to A, and some of them have pluses, some of them have minuses, but all in all, they're going to be there. So let me zoom in to the first movie I watched this year, which is a really good movie, which is James Bond, The Spy Who Loved Me from 1978. This is one of my favorite James Bond movies, and it has a classic villain, Jaws, and is just one of the best movies I've seen of James Bond. Then I'm going to put it in A tier. I gave it a solid 9 out of 10, and it's a great movie. Next, I'm going to move on to Semi-Tough, the movie from 1977 with Burt Reynolds and Chris Christopherson. And this movie was not good at all. This was one of the worst movies I watched this year. It was pretty bad. I get they're trying to make a comedy out of it, but not much was funny. It was dated. It's not even a great football movie. Yeah, it's probably the worst movie I watched this year. So, saying that, I'm going to put it in F tier. Now, moving on to a movie called No Hard Feelings. This movie was released in 2023, and it has Jennifer Lawrence in it, and with a surprise appearance from Matthew Broderick, who played Ferris Bueller. This was actually a pretty good movie. I gave it a 7.5 or an 8 out of 10, and gave it a good movie. It's a movie I'd watch again, and it was surprisingly good. So next, let me move on to a movie called Heavy from 1995. This movie is very out there. It's not like a really well-known movie. It was okay. It wasn't great, so I gave it an okay and put it in C tier. Next is The Invisible Man, the original from 1933. I thought this was going to be a good movie going in, but I fell asleep like twice through it, and it just never seemed that good. Some of the effects were all right, but it was not good really at all. I never even finished it. I gave it a D tier. Bad. Next up is some classic Charles Bronson, Death Wish. Now this is a good movie. It's these movies are fun to watch, and they don't disappoint. The plot is great, the kills are great, and you just have fun with it. So, saying that, I'm going to rank it an A tier and give it as a really good movie. Now, Death Wish 2, it's a lot similar to Death Wish 1. Kind of feels about the same. I'm going to give it a B tier. Yeah. Next up's The Swarm. But first, let me talk about Death Wish 3. This movie is really good as well. I gave it an A tier. Same with Death Wish 4. Some of the most entertaining movies I watched. The endings to them are great too. So let me scroll back down. Now it's The Swarm. The Swarm was also one of the worst movies I watched this year. Has Michael Caine, I believe, who was Alfred in the Batman movies for a while. Just nothing too special about it at all. So I'm going to rank it in front of The Invisible Man. I give it a D. Next up is Murphy's Law, another Charles Bronson movie. Tried to watch as many as I could in the first part of the year. Solid movie. Not as good as the Death Wish movies, but still pretty interesting with some good lines. And then we got The Iron Claw. This is the first movie I saw in the movie theater this last year. It's a wrestling movie about the tale of brothers. It's a solid movie. It was really fun to see in the movie theater. The sets were great. The recreations of the characters were great. I'm going to put that into B tier. Probably just right around Murphy's Law. Maybe just slightly under. But yeah, it was a fun movie to go see. So yeah, good first movie to see. All right, now moving on to the next one on my list. probably just put that right around Murphy's Law, probably in good B tier. Next up is Crisis Behind a Presidential Commitment from 1963. This is actually like a documentary that talks about JFK when he was president and shows live footage of him and his brother in the office. Solid documentary, solid movie. Definitely goes in A tier, probably an A minus, just because it wasn't that long. Next is Corvette Summer with Mark Hamill and the lady behind the desk in Ghostbusters. This is not a great movie by any means. The car isn't that amazing. Mark Hamill has nowhere near a performance as like Star Wars, and the plot doesn't really go anywhere. So I'm going to put that one probably in C tier. Next up is the Kirk Douglas movie from 1957 called Paths of Glory. This is a war movie, and it's a really emotional movie about what people go through in war, especially in a certain scenario. It was really good. There's not much to complain about. So I am going to give this an A tier, put this in A tier, above Death Wish, and give it a 8.95 out of 10. Next up is Taxi Driver. Now this is an interesting movie. I said it was eerily good when I watched it. It just isn't a movie you want to watch a lot, so that's why I didn't put it in A tier. But it's interesting to see the psychological going forward with the character. Robert De Niro does a great job. It's an interesting movie, and it's something everyone should watch. So I'm going to put that in B tier, the top of B tier. Probably B plus is going to probably be at the top of B tier. Next up is Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze. This is another classic movie that a lot of people from that time know. It's also really good. I'm going to put it in A tier. It's a very satisfying movie, and what Patrick Swayze can do, it's crazy how much in shape he was in this movie, and the ending's pretty good too. So yeah, definitely an A quality movie. Probably will go just slightly behind Death Wish. The Death Wishes are just too much fun to watch, so that's what I gotta say about that one. Next up is a pretty bad movie, One False Move with Bill Paxton. This movie is from 1992. It was not good. The plot was terrible. Acting wasn't good. It went nowhere. I give it a C minus. On to Revenge of the Nerds. This is a classic movie. You can watch this over and over and not get tired of it. It goes well with the fraternity vibes. This is just a fun movie. Pretty much the same as Roadhouse, in my opinion, as in ranking quality. I think it definitely deserves an A, and yeah, just everyone should watch that too who's going through college. Next up is another Charles Bronson movie, The Mechanic. I believe I fell asleep watching this for the first time, so I had to rewatch part of it later. But in the end, it was a really good movie. The ending's one of my favorite endings to a movie. Just crazy bizarre, and that's why I give it a B tier. Probably B plus or so. Probably just right behind Taxi Driver. Here's another bad movie we watched, The Invisible Boy. I think it's got Robbie the Robot in it. It's black and white, I'm pretty sure. And it may not be, I don't know. It just wasn't memorable. The story was just kind of confusing, not very good. On to the next one, The Dirt. This is a really good representation of Motley Crue, I think. People who are fans of 80s rock and hard rock will really enjoy this movie. It was fun to see how they portrayed the characters and to know more about their backstory. I really enjoyed it. This movie called Sea of Love with Al Pacino was my most surprising movie of 2024. When I watched this movie, I was in shock of how much better it was than I was going to give it credit for. I had no idea going into this movie what it was going to be like, and boy, was it good. So I'm going to put it in A tier. Pacino does a great job in this movie. The next one is Killing Them Softly. I don't remember much of this movie. It's got Brad Pitt in it. I'm probably just going to give it a D tier, maybe a D plus. I don't know, not good. The Good Guys and the Bad Guys is the next bad movie. This movie was also not good. We may not have even finished it. I can't remember. But this was bad. I give it a C minus. Could even probably have been worse, maybe even a D. But yeah, it's better than Invisible Boy just because it's more of a Western. I like those. The Naked Gun. This is a great comedy film. I enjoyed watching it. There's lots of funny parts. Totally a movie you should watch, no matter how old you are or what you think. But yeah, it's fun. Then I watched The Last Voyage of the Demeter. It's from 2023. I thought it was an all right movie. Gave it a B minus. It's not something I really want to watch again, but it is like a vampire movie on a boat. So some parts are kind of interesting. Um, some decent graphics, just pretty disturbing. I'll probably put it at the bottom of B tier. Next up is Hot Tub Time Machine, and this movie was pretty fun to watch. I enjoyed watching the time traveling aspect and all the things that they had to do, seeing people from when they were growing up. Yeah, that was fun. It was definitely better than the second movie, so I'm gonna put it in the middle of B tier. Like it's not as amazing movie, but it is pretty good. So that's why I'm gonna put it there. I think I might as well look at the second movie. I thought it was a little bit of a step down from the first movie. Just didn't make a heck of a lot of sense. Um, yeah, plot wasn't amazing, but it's still kind of fun to watch. Next up's The Burbs with Tom Hanks. This movie is it's great. It makes you wonder if there's any crazy neighbors in your neighborhood, what's going on. And yeah, Tom Hanks does a great job. It's a fun movie. Another surprising movie I watched was The Hill. This movie has Dennis Quaid in it, and I gave it an A. It was surprisingly good. It's an emotional story, and the end is emotional as it gets, which makes it B and A tier. Next up's a good movie with Robert Shaw from Jaws called The Taking of Pelham 123. It's from 1974. I gave it an A. It's a pretty good movie. It's about a hijack of a subway train and how the whole situation behind trying to resolve the situation. Very, very good movie. I would definitely put it in A tier, probably above some of the 80s quality movies. Very, very enjoyable. And next is Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore. This is a movie also with Chris Christopherson. This is before the Alice TV show. I think the actors changed between the two, but it was a fun movie to watch. It was solid. I wouldn't say it was amazing, but it was pretty good. So I'll probably put it in B tier. Next up is a movie called Whiplash, and I can see why it would get so many Academy Awards from all these different places, and what like you can see there on the poster. Yeah, it's definitely it's a movie about a drummer who wants to make the most of himself, and he gets the most troubling drum teacher. But yeah, very emotional movie. I'll definitely put it in B tier. It's pretty good, but it's not my favorite kind of thing. Next up's another 80s teen movie called Just One of the Guys. Isn't really my favorite perspective on 80s movies, but it was a good watch. It's got Billy Zabka from Karate Kid in it, so I'd probably give it a B. It was solid, just not my favorite. Next up, I went and saw this in the theater. Is Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire. This was a really good movie. I thought anyway. Some people may not like it that much, but I thought it was pretty good. The effects are great. It felt kind of short watching it, but it was really enjoyable to watch. And I'll probably put it behind the Death Wishes just because those were really enjoyable. Oh, here's a classic. Okay, this is The Godfather. Everyone has pretty much seen this movie. I thought this was great, an excellent movie. Definitely one of the top I watched this year. You can only learn more by watching it more times, but I gave it a 9.3 out of 10. It was an excellent movie. Probably put it just right in front of The Spy Who Loved Me. Next up is Barbie. Now, this is a very vibrant movie. Not quite in my wheelhouse of what I wanted to watch, but it was fun. I did enjoy it. I thought it was good, but it's not good enough for me to give it a B for Barbie, so I'm going to put it in C tier as a C plus. Next up, we've got the 3 original Star Wars movies that I saw all back to back to back in the um, movie theater and on May 4th, and they're so good. It's hard to rank them, but I put them as my favorites. So New Hope, then Empire, then Return of the Jedi. But yeah, those are definitely A+ quality movies. Next is The Fall Guy, based on a TV show, and if you take out of the equation that the actors aren't the same for the characters, and you want them to be um, different entities for the movie versus the TV show from the 80s, it was a good movie. I did enjoy it. It was pretty good. I had a fun time watching it. The original TV characters made a cameo. I'm going to put it in B tier. Pretty good. Yeah, probably in front of most of those in B tier. Yeah, it's a little bit more fun. Okay, next up is Clint Eastwood, Coogan's Bluff. This is not my favorite Clint Eastwood movie really at all, but it wasn't bad. It was okay. I'm going to put it at the lower B tier category. Probably a B- or so. But definitely, I'd watch it again, but not before other movies. Oops. Next time is going to be hopefully better. Okay, so the next movie is Sid and Nancy. This is a movie about a rock star, aspiring rock star, um, kind of out in the streets, meets this girl. Uh, they have trouble with substances. It's a very dark movie. Not my kind of thing. It's kind of slow. I give it a C. Just not my style. Now this movie, LA Confidential, this is a really good movie. It's from 1997. I said it was great, and I gave it an A tier. I think it goes, yeah, probably just right in front of Sea of Love. It's pretty good. Now here's a classic movie called The Public Enemy with James Cagney in it, the famous mobster guy from the 30s. Yeah, this movie was made in 1931. It holds up pretty good, but it does seem a little dated in parts. Some parts are either a little slow or just not as good as some of the other movies, but yeah, it is a solid movie. I definitely put it in A tier. Probably, I'd say it's a significant movie, but um, for me, it's just not my favorite movie. Next up is a movie that I still think about when I watched it, and it just wasn't good. It's got the main character, um, Papa from Stranger Things, uh, Matthew Modine. This is just a weird story, weird plot, weird. It's got good actors, but it's a terrible plot. I definitely give that a C. It could even be in D tier. Just not great. Now here's one of my favorite movies, patriotic movies that is. Tom Cruise, Born on the 4th of July, 1989. He should have won an Oscar for this movie. This movie's amazing. I would watch this any 4th of July I could. I'm definitely putting this in A tier. Yeah, some of these movies in A tier are just too good. I'm gonna have to put it in front of Sea of Love just because it's probably a movie I would watch over and over each year. So, yeah, it's tough to say. I'm just gonna put it there. All right, next up's Godzilla times Kong: The New Empire from 2024. This had solid effects and it looked pretty cool. I would probably put it in B tier, probably up by Fall Guy. It was good. This movie I saw in the theater, Horizon. A lot of people kind of hated on this movie, but I really enjoyed it. It was long. It set up the other parts that should be coming soon. It's supposed to be a multi-part movie series. The real life of the West. It's just really portrayed well in this movie. I enjoyed it a lot. I'm putting it solid B tier, even though it's not perfect. Next up is Beetlejuice. I wanted to watch this before seeing the new movie that came out this year. I gave it a B+, I think, because it is kind of bizarre. It's entertaining. It's just hard to follow, and it can be good and it can be kind of tough to understand. Next up's Raging Bull. I can see how this is a significant movie to many people, but I kind of thought it was just okay. It wasn't really a movie I'd want to watch again per se. It was a little controlling. The character's a little controlling, and it's just not something you want to watch all the time. So it's another De Niro movie, but I'll probably give it a B just because of how significant it is. I'll put it probably lower B tier. Next up's another movie I saw in the movie theater this last year. It was Twisters. I thought it had really good special effects, but it was more far fetched than it should have been, even though it was going for some of that. Especially like bricks flying off the outside of a building, but none of the chairs coming up off the floor. It's just kind of crazy, but country music fans would really enjoy it. So because it has a good soundtrack, I'll probably put it in B tier. Um, yeah, it was a good looking movie and enjoyable. Next up is Aliens. This is another absolute classic movie. Excellent movie. Um, it's crazy how good this movie is. I'm definitely putting this in A tier. Uh, right around The Godfather. Yeah, it's that good. Wow, this is another surprising movie when I went to go see it. Alien Romulus. This movie was just baffling at parts where I had my mouth open, like, oh my gosh, this is actually happening. The way it looked, the spaceships and the planets and all that was just so cool. I really enjoyed watching this, and I'm putting it in A tier. Some people may not think it's great, but when a movie leaves you in that much in shock, you can tell it was good. All right, this next movie I watched was Sancho the Bailiff from 1954. This was for my Japanese samurai class, and I thought this was shot very well. It's a very emotional movie. Uh, it's about a person who rules over a slave camp and eventually gets overturned by the slaves. So it's just a very emotional movie. You don't really want to watch too much, but I give it a B. Now we got the Raiders of the Lost Ark. Solid movie. Amazing. I put it A plus, 9 out of 8, 9.8 out of 10, just right behind Star Wars. Can't get much better than that. Next up is the new Beetlejuice movie. Went and saw it in the theater. I thought it was great. I really enjoyed it. It looked great. The plot was pretty good. The bad guy got killed off too quickly, I think, but or just the whole thing. But otherwise, it was pretty good. So I enjoyed it. And then Halloween came, so I hadn't seen the Terrifier movies yet, so I wanted to watch those, especially since the new one was out in theaters and people were going to see it. So these are very brutal movies, but very unique. So I'm going to put them in B tier. I think the second one is just slightly better than the first one. You build on his character a little bit, but yeah, that was quite some movies. Okay, next is Mishima: Life in Four Chapters. This has George Lucas's name attached to it. This is another movie I watched for my samurai class. It was solid, but it was very weird and confusing, and the plot was tough. It's kind of about a guy in the 60s and 70s who embodies the samurai lifestyle, ultimately dies in the way of the samurai. But it was hard to follow. It wasn't my favorite, so I'll probably put it in middle C tier. Next up is Hercules. It's the first time I've ever watched this movie. It's the Disney animated film from 1997. I thought it had great colors and was a fun story. It's definitely worth an A tier, probably A minus or so for me. Next up is Goodfellas. This movie was also really fun to watch. Another De Niro film. Movie people should watch if they haven't seen it. I think it definitely deserves an A tier, probably right around the hill. It could even go in front of it, but yeah, it's a solid movie. Here's a fun movie. No One Will Save You. This is just a suspense movie about the famous gray aliens coming down to Earth, and you can totally tell it's like a Twilight Zone episode by the end of it. You always wonder what the character's going to do or what's going to happen. There's some great kills in this movie. I had a fun time watching it, and although you may keep wondering, it's worth watching, so I put it in B tier. Then's the original Tron from 1982. I love playing the arcade game, and I hadn't seen the movie in a long time. It was very creative, I thought, for the time. It holds up pretty well in that way. It's just that the blue lights were so blinding, especially halfway through the movie, it could give you a headache. But it was fun and pretty creative for its time. Next up is Woman of the Hour. This is a movie from 2023, Anna Kendrick, and she's a contestant on a game show. And there's one of the contestants that's a male is a serial killer, and you kind of learn how he goes about being a serial killer as a photographer. Very interesting movie, good story. They did a good job telling the real life story kind of through it, and it definitely deserves a B tier. It's fun to watch. Next up is Marnie from 1964. This is a movie with Sean Connery in it, and it's an Alfred Hitchcock movie. This was not very good. It was kind of pointless for me to watch it. It had really no point to it. It was just this disturbed girl doing all these weird things, and this guy just keeps wanting to be in love with her and keeps being with her no matter what kind of controls, trying to help her out, understand her condition. And yeah, it just was not great. Not much to it. Probably a C, maybe a C plus. I don't know. Next is terrible movie, Joker, Folie à Deux from 2024. I watched this on Max. It was pretty pointless too, not gonna lie. They could have went so many more routes that were better with this movie, and they didn't. So for this reason, I'm putting a D plus. Could even be a D or an F, but whatever. Next up, solid movie. One of the best I watched this year, Dirty Harry, but with Clint Eastwood. Absolute classic movie. It's definitely a worthwhile movie. It's solid. It's one of Clint Eastwood's best movies, in my opinion. And yeah, you just have fun watching that movie. It's well shot, it's well made, and it's worth your time to watch. Here comes the main Christmas time movies this year. The new Nosferatu movie came out, so I decided to watch the original Nosferatu from 1922 silent film with Max Schreck as Count Orlok. And man, this was a disturbing movie, especially for that time. The way they did the makeup on him and how the story was told was great and so iconic and creative for its time, bringing that to the film, on film for the first time. Yeah, I'm definitely putting that in A tier for how it helped advance the history of horror. And I definitely give it like a 9.1 out of 10. A. Then I went to the theater and watched the new Nosferatu. The sets were great, the graphics are great, the actors are really good. Willem Dafoe was in it. It was fun. Some stuff was changed from the original, but it was still pretty good. It just, it's not as creative because that story's been told so many times. So I'm probably going to put that one probably in high B tier, probably like a B plus towards the top. They're all kind of about the same. And then I also watched the other one from 1979, and this movie is pretty good. It's like the other ones. The vampire is so chilling looking and scary when you first see him, and the ending is a little bit different, and I enjoyed it. So yeah, I'm putting that in B tier around the other one. Here's the last two movies I watched of 2024. Clint Eastwood's one of his last films, probably. Juror number 2. I was hoping for a really good movie and to end the year off on, but it really was just okay. It wasn't great, it wasn't bad, it was kind of just in the middle. I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. I'm probably going to put it in a E minus range. It could have been ended in like 30 minutes, I really thought. 20 minutes in, you knew what happened, but they dragged it out to about an hour and a half. So, I don't know. Some of the lines and stuff are pretty funny in it, but it's not amazing. Probably right around Coogan's Bluff. They're kind of not standouts, but not bad. Oh, and this movie, the last movie, this was on, so we watched the last half of this. This was a really bad movie. I give it a D minus. This is just terrible. The choices by the characters are bad. The whole story is bad. Like, what the heck is the singer doing at the end? I don't even know. But yeah, that was bad. So yeah, I don't know about the first half of the movie. Probably wouldn't change my opinion. Yeah, it's just not it. But there you go. That's my whole tier ranking video of all 74 movies I watched this year. Hope you had a fun time watching it, and hopefully some of these inspire you to go out and watch them, especially the A tier ones. Thanks for watching, everybody. Feel free to leave your opinions on this video and let me know what you think. All right, bye.